embarking on this adventure once again. Yeah. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar.
Hi, Salvador. Oh, that's lovely. Okay. So before we get started, just like to point out and invite you guys to get to know our beloved Faculdade Cultura Inglesa. There are lots of different courses. We have graduação, mestrado, letras, and also have cursos livres, cursos de extensão, and cursos gratuitos. So do visit our website and get to know Faculdade Cultura Inglesa. It's going to be a huge, you never know, Mauro. Visit the website and you'll find out if they're hiring, okay? And also, we'd like to invite you all. Wow, Alexandre from Washington, thank you so much for joining us.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. So I invite you all to participate in our Cultura Inglesa colloquium. It's going to take place in February next year. There is a button on the top here. Just click and you can enroll. It's a free day with lots of exchanging of experience and lots of conferences. So please click and join us there at Cultura Inglesa Colloquium Open Day.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for everyone, for people in Washington, right, Leah?
Yes,
all over
amazing.
Brazil, all over the world,
Floripa,
for teachers to get
Peru.
together.
Amazing.
Yeah, lovely. And
lovely.
it's a whole day of sharing and, collaboration. Very special for all English teachers. Great. Save the date, the 5th of February.
Save the date and spread the word. The more the merrier.
Please do. Yeah.
Hi, Alberto. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay,
Great.
so let's get started, shall we, Finn?
Woohoo, absolutely. Good. So for us to get started, guys, I'd like to share with you something. Some of you might know that this might review someone's age here. Okay, I think you can see now. Yeah, our agenda. So we're gonna talk a little bit, first of all, about the features of spoken language, since we're like talking about speaking. Help, my students won't talk. Let's look at the features of spoken language. Let's then share and look at 3 different activities that we could use to help our students, regardless of the level they're at, and particularly basic students, beginner elementary students. 3 activities that might help them get started and try and speak a bit more during the classes. Then a few reminders about task design and Q&A, hopefully some 10-15 minutes towards the end. Questions, answers, comments, okay? What have you. Ready? So for us to get started, we're going to share this picture. It might sound familiar for some of you. So do you know who these guys are? Ever seen them before? Here in Brazil, I think you might know them from
Fernanda, she got it. Thank you. At least some
Lovely.
people did. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gustavo.
Yeah. Okay. As I said, this might reveal a couple of people's age here, but that's fine to see. Back in the 90s, lunchtime and SBT and so on and so forth. So this is a sitcom called Blossom. So some of you might know this. Basically, for those who don't know or never watched it, never had the chance, Blossom is this teenage girl here at the very center of the screen. And then the sitcom follows the adventures and her life, basically. Yeah. And then, of course, all struggles that teenage girls and teenagers in general go through in life, school, relationships, and so on and so forth. And she's in the Big Bang Theory, absolutely. Yeah, so if you don't know Bloodson, you will possibly know her from the Big Bang Theory. But then we're gonna focus on her friend. Actually, here on the left, you have her best friend Six. Yeah, that's her name, Six. And Six has a peculiarity of her own. So the way she speaks. And then when I was studying English back, in the 90s and yesterday, and particularly when I started teaching English, I had Six as my model. So when I grow up, when I become a good teacher, I'll be able to teach my students to speak just like Six does. And particularly for those of you who have never watched the sitcom, I have here, rightly, we brought to you a snippet. Then I just want you to listen. It's about 1 minute, 1 minute and a half. So just have a watch. What's peculiar about the way six speaks? Okay, so here we go. Just let me know if you can see and hear well, guys.
The point is, before you did...
So, sorry, does that work for you? Can you all
Yes,
see?
sound is
Okay,
fine.
so
Now
I'll
the
just
same
start.
Thank you, Faye.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks a bunch for the feedback, guys. So just starting over. What's peculiar about the way six speaks?
The point is, before you did something illegal, you should have sat down and talked with your mother about your problem. She's a reasonable, intelligent person, and I'm sure she would have listened to what you have to say.
Dorothy Lemure, what do you have to say for yourself? You have a lot of explaining to do. Don't even open your mouth. What possessed you? Just be quiet. This is a nightmare. Are you okay? Of course you're okay. All right. You have 30 seconds to explain what happened, and it better be good.
Mom, the truth is I don't have any explanations. Some of the older girls at school were talking about how cool the Nikki Kyoshi jeans were and how geeky the jeans I had on were. So I took the money you gave me for jeans and I went to the store and I couldn't even afford a Nikki Kyoshi pocket patch.
So you went to the next logical step and started stealing home appliances, honestly. Stealing? I never thought you and I would be in a conversation about stealing. I didn't think you were the kind of person who could do something as terrible as this.
Mom, I'm not that kind of person. It's like when you go to school and everybody's wearing the kind of clothes that you want and I don't have that kind of money and you don't have that kind of money and now with Dad gone, I mean, I'm not trying to blame this on the divorce, but we just don't have that kind of money.
I can't believe that you think that money is the kind of thing that will make you popular when you know what really counts is what kind of a person you are inside, and that doesn't come from labels or what kind of shoes or any of that materialistic kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I bet what you're saying in theory, Mom, but in reality, it's just not like that. I can't just be this really good person who's dressed up in a bag and nobody cares about that and they'll accept me for my inside.
And I want you to know that you're in very big trouble, young lady. Get out and march yourself out the door and over to the house and up to your room. I'll sit and think about this while I put up the appropriate punishment.
All right. So back in those days, guys, to me, there was the perfect example of what it's like to be proficient and to sound natural when speaking. And then of course what happened, right, Liz? So when I stepped in the classroom and taught my very first particularly basic groups, I soon realized that it was not that easy. So I would perhaps never be able to make my students speak like that. And then I started questioning myself. So I'm not a good teacher. But then I saw that the more students told me that they wanted to learn how to speak and to practice speaking, the more they told me that, the less they would speak in class. And of course, as a consequence, the more I would speak. So I would be doing all the talk and then my students wouldn't open their mouth. Yeah. I don't know if you guys share the same experience. I know Lenora does. Yeah. So it might lead to a bit of frustration on the part of the teacher. But then it took me, of course, some time to understand that you don't need to speak like six. You don't need to speak that fast, to sound proficient or for you to actually reach this level of proficiency. And actually speaking fast has nothing to do with being good at speaking or speaking clearly or being able to convey your message, well in speaking. So only after I understood this, I could really look back and rethink all my, beliefs and everything. And then when I started studying the features of spoken language that Lenora and I are going to share with you here very quickly, guys. So then I understood that it's quite different. So maybe six wouldn't really be a good example for me or for my students. Yeah. But I would have, as a teacher, I would have to focus on slightly different things that would then lead to students, regardless of the level, but again, particularly beginner elementary students speaking more and feeling more confident about speaking in class. Yeah.
And there's something interesting that Alexandra and Kelly have shared on the chat, that speaking fast does not necessarily mean fluency. And
Absolutely.
Working and helping learners understand that is also interesting, because then they will kind of adjust the expectations and mindset that being fast doesn't mean being fluent, and then they can focus their attention to those features and become more fluent, not necessarily faster. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if we teachers don't understand this, if this is not clear to us, you won't be clear to our students, and our students will always have this as a benchmark. So I do want to sound like X, Y, Z because they speak so well, they speak so fast, so beautifully, or the accent is great. But then let's look at the future. So I started thinking back then. So why don't my basic students speak? They say they want to speak, but they don't. But why? Is it because they are shy? Is it because they don't have the grammar, the vocabulary, or is there any other reason why they won't speak? And then look at what happens, guys, when we're speaking. Like speaking is real-time production, so we don't have much time to plan. Just like it's differently, of course, from writing, that you would plan and write down, put things down on paper, and then edit and think again. No, but not with speaking. We are here producing as we think, and there's this linearity, so words after words, utterances after utterances. Again, there isn't much planning in terms of, oh, blocks, I'll start here and then go on to the second thing. No, it all happens at the same time, so we might at least have the impression that it's really a linear process. We just put words after words, again, utterances after utterances, and there's this interactivity. So responses to what the interlocutor says, they happen very fast. So if I'm having a chat with Lenora here, I'll have to listen to her, try to make sense of what she's saying, and then try to think of what I'm gonna say in to reply to her, and then actually utter this, and then listen to her, look at her face, and try to read her. So there's a lot going on in this real speaking interaction, and there's shared knowledge. So if we're talking, for example, about a friend we have in common, Susan, say we are not going to say, oh, remember Susan, the girl we met when we were both young and studied together. We're not going to say this because it's shared knowledge. So a third person listening or overhearing our conversation, they won't understand what we're talking about or who we're talking about because they don't have the shared knowledge. Yeah, there's no much explanation going on. Speaking is very spontaneous, so there's this spontaneity. Sometimes I'll just crack a joke and then people will laugh, and then we're gonna kind of become serious, and then there's the facial expression. So again, there's a lot going on, and it's very spontaneous. And also there's very, very limited planning time that, again, as I said at the beginning, overlaps with production. So see, all this goes on in a matter of fractions of a second. To say here 1 second or half a second, all this is going on, and then I have to produce, I have to make it all happen if I really want to speak well, so to speak, or to sound fluent. Yeah, there's this very interesting thing that Lenora and I are going to share with you guys, and then we borrowed this from Scott Thornbury. You might be familiar with him. There's this great book by Thornbury. We're going to give you the reference at the end. But here he explains that whenever we're speaking, and then again, it could be our mother tongue, it could be a second language, a foreign language, there are these four things going on at the same time. So there's the conceptualization, formulation, articulation, and self-monitoring. That's just very quickly, again, look at the features of them. So conceptualization. So the very first thing that tends to happen is we think of the type of speech we're going to produce. So, okay, it's me and Lenora over coffee. So it's very informal. Or no, it's me and Lenora, but Lenora is my boss. So I'm going to actually make a presentation to her. So you see the type, and then this type leads to a sort of script. If it's a formal presentation, I sort of know what to expect or what the steps are. If it's something much more informal, maybe it's not that well scripted, and then there are gaps, or there's room for more spontaneity. But then there's the topic. What am I talking to Lenora about? Is this something more personal, more professional? Is this the two of us discussing our presentation? Is this like talking about plans for the weekend? moment, and then a rainy day and stuff. So what's the topic and what's the purpose? Do I want to inform her of something? Do I want to convince her to do something? Do I want to kind of speculate on what happened to someone we know? So there are lots and lots of things going on when it comes to conceptualization. We haven't opened our mouth yet. Yeah, we're just thinking. And then there comes the formulation. So again, if it's a presentation, I immediately try and access the script for this presentation. So I have to tell Lenora what's going to be about, and then I have to tell her why I'm presenting, maybe the agenda, maybe this product I want to sell, and how to. If it's a spontaneous conversation over coffee, say, hey, do you like the coffee? I think I need a bit more sugar here. No, I like it bitter, this kind of thing. So the script varies according, of course, to the type of conversation. And then the topic and comment, just like in writing, we have the subject and then the predicate. In conversation, in the utterances, we usually have the topic, which is what we're talking about, in the comment. So for example, the coffee is very good. So the coffee is the topic, is very good would be my comment. Possibly in the next utterance, the comment becomes the topic. So say, oh yeah, it's very good because it was Dona Maria who made it. Had it been me, it would taste horrible, but Dona Maria is great at making coffee. So see, there's this is pretty much how the topic progresses. Yeah, topic, comment. And of course, pronunciation. Say, do I know if it's a second language or a foreign language, not my mother tongue? Do I know how to pronounce this? To say bitter or I say biter? I say bitter or bitter? I say, so how do I pronounce the words I'm thinking about? But remember, it all happens in a matter of a fraction of a second. It's very, 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 very fast. Yeah, but there's more to it. Then there's the articulation. So conceptualization and formulation, I'm just thinking of what I'm going to say. From the moment I open my mouth to actually utter the very first sound, then what happens? I have to think of phonemes and connected speech. So say, oh, the cough, I say cough or coffee? No, the cough is very good. The cough, what do you mean the cough? No, the coffee, what's coffee? No, the coffee. So see, there's this, how many syllables? Then this phoneme. Is this, do I say IO or ISLO? How do I pronounce? I'm not sure. So there are lots and lots and lots of things going on, particularly when it's, again, a second language, a foreign language, a language that we're learning, a language that we don't master. And again, particularly if we're talking about a basic learner, yeah, someone who's just getting started in the process. And then there's the pitch, depending on what I mean or what I really want to say, or what is in place to say, Lenora, are you really sure? So there's this pitch, maybe it goes up and down. So there's a high pitch, a low pitch, say, Lenora. This it sounds that, say, there's this implicit message according to the pitch I use. And then the pause, say, Lenora, I was thinking here, I have to place the pauses strategically in the right places so that it sounds natural. If I say something like, que you will never understand, because I placed the pauses wrongly, so to speak. Yeah, they don't sound natural. So I have to place the pauses again well, yeah, so that I can convey my message. And of course, the utterances, it starts like at the sound level, so say the phonemes, but then there are the words, that are the utterances up to the level of discourse. Yeah, so you see, guys, there's really a lot going on when we're just trying to utter a sentence. And there's more, there's self-monitoring. So sometimes there's abandonment. So just say, oh, Lenora, let me tell you something. You don't really no, what I mean is, I don't think there is, to say, I just abandoned my first utterance because maybe I would sound too aggressive. So I said, no, what I mean is, and then I start off another sentence. So just abandoned and start, which is something we don't do in writing. Yeah, in writing, everything is beautifully put, together. In speaking, it's not. Yeah, and then there's rephrase to say, Lenora, you're not. No, what I mean is, let me try and clarify here. Say, just rephrase what I said. And correction. Yes, I said correction sometimes because I really used the wrong grammar or something like that, if we're talking about a second language, foreign language. or because I wasn't that clear, so I try and clarify and correct what I said. Yeah. Phew.
Okay.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot
So
going
just
on.
before you move on, Faye, because there are some interesting
Sure.
comments in the chat, and also Fernando pointed out that these elements, they are crucial because to develop appropriate speaking skills, they need to be addressed in class, and this has to do a lot with preparation or the kind of choices we as teachers make when choose to teach those speaking features or spoken features in the classroom. So it is a lot happening at the same time, and our choices will have a huge impact on learners' speaking skill development. So this is why being the more aware we are of those features and how they play a role, which ones are the most important in different lessons, depending on the purpose, on the objective of learners and the lesson, then we can make our choices and little by little help learners master or become aware, first of all, of those features, and then little by little master them. Yeah, but there is still more to come, right, Faye?
Yeah, and then I think this is just crucial because, again, if we teachers are not aware of this, our students will never be aware because we are the ones who should really make them aware. And little by little, so gradually, let's work on one feature or one of each part here, one aspect of each of the four in the diagram in each class so that they can, with time, develop them gradually. Yeah. So just in short, guys, when we're trying to utter a sentence, what's going on? To say there's this thing of automaticity, we have to rely on prefabricated chunks. To say, for example, if I want to clarify what I said, we say, what I mean is, so this what I mean is a prefabricated chunk that we're gonna just use, access and use whenever we want to clarify something. But do we know about that as a student learning English? Do we know that these exist? Do you know that we can rely on them? Fluency might have to do with speed, but it's basically about pausing. So remember, you have to place your pauses strategically in the right place. Do our students know about that? Do our basic learners ever heard or imagined? Have they ever were they ever made aware that in Portuguese or in their native language, they do this all the time and they do this beautifully? So it's just maybe a matter of raising awareness and showing how to do that in English, and then, of course, making room for practice. Yeah. Pausing has also to do with frequency and placement, to say how many gaps, how many pauses will I have per utterance, or then from an utterance to another, or then this thing of turn taking. So it's all to do, guys, pauses, they play a vital role in sounding fluent, in sounding, natural, so to speak. Disguising pauses then is very important. Say pause fillers, this kind of thing, yeah. And vague language, repeats, we're gonna have a look at them. But for you to really sound natural, again, regardless of your level, you do have to know, to be made aware of these features and practice them. In our classes, how many times have we actually given our students the chance to practice these features? Yeah, so just for us to think here. Turns taken, again, so there are discourse markers and back channel devices. When say Lenora is telling me an anecdote, I'm not going to interrupt her, but say, really? Oh, you're kidding me. This kind of back channel, reaction to show that I'm listening, that she can go on, but that I don't mean to interrupt her. It's just to say that, okay, I'm following, I'm here with you. Please go on, this kind of thing. Yeah. And also paralinguistic features like gestures, facial expression. So you're reading your interlocutor as you're speaking, and then maybe you will change because of their reaction and so on and so forth. So with all this going on as we're speaking, it comes as no surprise that we're going to cry for help. So help, my students won't talk. So why? Because there's a lot going on, and they can't cope with that, particularly at a basic level. So what do we have to do as teachers? Little by little, when I break it down, say let's work on one feature or part and an aspect of a feature at a time, so that we make students aware of that and give them practice and feedback and practice and feedback, so that gradually they can master this. Okay, so basically after this short introduction, we're gonna share with you 3 activities, right, Lee, that we came up with.
Yeah, Faye, there is just
Go ahead.
you were just kindly asking us to go back to the last screen for a sec.
Sure, here you are.
That's the one, right?
Oh,
So,
that
yeah.
goes on while we're trying to utter a
Yeah.
sentence. Okay, good. So 3 activities. What we're gonna try to do, guys, because we're not face to face. I mean, being online remotely is great, but we do miss, rightly, the interaction and
Oh,
people
yes.
and touch and stuff. But then what we're gonna do is Lenora and I are going to try and reproduce here the activities the way students would be doing them. So mind you, these activities are just examples of what could be done to practice these features, to break it down, select one feature at a time or an aspect of this feature and give practice and feedback and practice and feedback. Okay, so that again, with time, students can start mastering this regardless of, again and again, regardless of the level. So starting from real beginners or very basic elementary learners. Okay, the first activity has to do with this. So what we're gonna do is this. So Lenora and I are gonna talk. There are some prompts, so the teacher is gonna show us the prompt. We can only go and ask the second question from the moment it shows on the screen. So Lenora is black, Felipe is blue. Whenever there comes a black sentence, Lenora asks that, and then Felipe has to answer. If it's a blue question, Felipe asks, and Lenora has to answer. Okay, ready, Lee?
Yes.
Go start. So here we go.
So, Felipe, how are you today?
Oh, I'm fine, Lee. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine too. Thanks for asking.
Oh, good, good. I'm fine. I'm fine. What did you do last night?
Last night I watched a TV series. Yeah, TV series.
Oh, TV series. What's your favorite TV series?
It's NCIS.
Good.
Oh, any special plans for the weekend, Felipe?
The weekend is Saturday, yeah? Saturday, Sunday. No special plans. I like to watch TV. So yeah, watch TV. Uh, Marsha loves traveling. Where did she go now?
Marcia went to Rio.
Oh, Rio.
Rio de Janeiro, yes.
Ah, cool. Does she like Rio?
She likes Rio.
Okay.
And what's your favorite series?
Favorite. I don't have a favorite series. I like films. I don't like series very much. Sorry. Um, Lenora, can you cook spaghetti?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay. I can't cook spaghetti.
I love spaghetti.
I can't cook. I don't cook. I eat a lot, but I don't cook.
What's the weather like tomorrow?
Rain, not sunny. Rain. I think it'll rain. It rains all the time here. Uh, your friend Kadu, does he have a boyfriend?
I don't know.
Because I saw him with a boy, but I'm not sure if they're going out and stuff.
I don't know.
All right, guys. So end of demo. Yeah. So as you can see, these are totally unrelated, questions, and this could come well after some grammar practice. So we've looked at past simple and maybe plans, I don't know, talking about the future, phase, what's your favorite? This one's very tricky. Yeah, what's the weather like tomorrow? It would be very, challenging for basic learners. But anyway, this could be part of a grammar lesson. But the point here is not to practice grammar or even vocabulary. It's not language per se, but it's speaking as a skill. So from the moment I review one sentence and then there's this gap up until the moment I review the next sentence, what am I forcing students to do? To kind of fill, to bridge this gap. So they have to answer the question. And if there's more time, they have to kind of fill it up. So they have to complete and say something. Yeah. It might be very challenging for students, particularly the first, second, third time you do it, because they won't know what to do. They will find it very strange. But then you show them that this is what usually happens in conversation. When we're talking, I mean, spontaneous conversation, we never know what the person's going to ask, what the next question is going to be. People can change topics quite easily and fast. Yeah. So that's the point here. But the conversation will not sound very natural because the topics change abruptly. So there's no indication, there's no signposting of a topic changing into another. So maybe what we could do, the very first thing we could do right after we've given this practice, rightly, is show them or raise their awareness to the fact that there are some mechanisms, there are some phrases we can use in English to indicate, to signpost that we're changing the topic. So basically you would have students do this without giving them too much, explanation or detail. So just have them do the task, have them experiment or experience this. And then you tell them, look, guys, so think about this that we're going to listen now. So Lenora and I, let's try this. So you start.
How are you today?
Oh, not too bad. Just a little tired. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay. Oh, by the way, what did you do last night?
Last night, I can't remember. I watched TV. How about you?
Oh, I worked a lot. Yeah, no time to relax.
Speaking of that, any special plans for the weekend?
The weekend's gonna be great. What's going on here, guys? From the moment I say, and then you tell students or help students see for themselves. When I say, by the way, what am I doing? Am I still in the same topic, talking about like, how are you? Am I still greeting, or am I moving to a next topic? Oh, moving to the next topic. Oh, great. And does the same apply to speaking of that? Oh, yeah. So maybe when you're changing from one topic to another, you might indicate that you're changing by saying, by the way, or maybe speaking of that. So this discourse markers, you don't need to use the term, of course, but just for you to help students see that there is this linguistic mechanism that you can use to make the conversation sound a little bit more natural. Yeah, so that's the point here. And it has to do, back to Thornbury, with what he calls the 3 A's of speaking. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Maybe you could even use the chat box here. So have you ever heard of Thornbury's 3 A's of speaking? What do they stand for? And how do these 3 A's help students practice and with time master speaking? Oh, I like that. Ask, answer,
Yeah, I like
add.
that too. Yeah,
That's
it's
lovely.
kind
Any other ideas? No. Never heard about that. So let me show you here. Let's show everyone this. So the first A is for awareness, the second for appropriation, and the third for automaticity. Yeah, so according to Thornbury, if we as teachers can sort of guarantee some time in our lessons for awareness, appropriation, and automaticity, with time, speaking will become something very natural in the lesson, and students will feel like speaking and giving it a go, trying and succeeding. Yeah. So let's quickly look at them. So awareness has to do with us teachers drawing students' attention to specific features of speaking so that they can notice such features as they see proficient speakers performing real-life tasks. So back to our example here in this task, like first of all, we had students experience the task, so say you're really completing the task. Then right after, Lenora and I, so proficient speakers of the lesson, so we did the same task and we had students compare. So what was different between your turn and these two people talking here? They used some language, they used some chunks, some phrases to show, to signpost, to indicate that they were changing the topic. So this is awareness. We're maybe asking questions or highlighting or guiding students into noticing for themselves features of language. They're going to be useful for them. Yeah. Then, Le, would you like to tell us a bit about appropriation?
Yes. So then what's interesting about appropriation is that when we find room in our lessons so that learners can have this opportunity to be given support to practice very specific skills or specific language features, and then little by little, the amount of support is reduced, and they can become more independent as the course or the lesson progresses. So this has to do a lot with scaffolding. So we provide them with the opportunity to practice with initially, the lower the level, perhaps a lot of support, and little by little we remove the support so that they can own and they can make the language their own, and that's why it has to do with appropriation. So, and they will become eventually more independent in the future.
Yeah, that
Which
would
will
be
lead
the
us. Yeah, go ahead.
to automaticity, absolutely, yeah. Where learners are giving a task that resembles a real-life interaction. Then feedback's provided before learners are given a second chance to perform. And according to Thornbury and lots of, authors who talk about speaking, we do have to give students a second chance, maybe a third, fourth opportunity to perform the very same task, because repetition helps a lot with automaticity. Think of you guys when you learned to drive. You see, when you're learning to drive, so you have to repeat, do the very same. I mean, anything we're learning, to do, we have to repeat it a number of times up until it becomes automatic to us. Yeah. And again, question for us teachers: how many times do we actually allow students to repeat the very same task, maybe in the same lesson, maybe the lesson or the lessons after? So how many times do we recycle or revise, revisit language and skills that we've practiced? Yeah. So according to Thornbury, and that's what we're bringing it to share here with you guys, if we try to apply this AAA, awareness, appropriation, and automaticity in our classes, starting off with the very beginner, entry levels, this is going to help students, understand, see for themselves the features of spoken language, and practice and master them as we as the lessons progress. What we've done so far would have been the awareness. Yes, so we drew students' attention to the features, to the chunks, the discourse markers. So right after that, we could have students perform the task again, so say repetition. The very task you performed, guys, 10 minutes ago, let's do it again, but now you have to use by the way, and you have to use speaking of that. Okay, and then of course you would drill, you could do, repetition drills, substitution drills, just for a bit of more, controlled practice, and then we would do that again. Le, let's give it a try. So you start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Felipe, how are you today?
Oh, good. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm good too. It's a good day. I'm not bad.
Great. Good. Yeah. Lovely. Great to hear. Oh, by the way, what did you do last night?
I was very tired. I didn't do much. I just watched a TV series.
Right.
And speaking of that, any special plans for the weekend?
The weekend. Oh yeah, you mentioned Sears. I think I'm gonna just lie on the couch and watch my favorite series all day long. Then, of course, guys, we're gonna stop here.
Yeah.
But students would continue, and then what you can do is you give them the second chance, and then the third, so you give them some feedback, so focusing on what they did well, what could be correct to say. Speaking, let's say they're pronounced like speaking of that this little sound to say, just drill it, guys, everyone, speaking of that, speaking, just correct, give them some feedback, and then they try it a third time. Maybe this third time you will just, instead of 15 seconds in between, so you reduce the gap to say 10 seconds in between questions, and then only 5 seconds to say you're helping them with automaticity. You're helping them become more fluent as they perform, as they repeat the same task. Yeah. So again, guys, this is just an example. You don't have to do this very task, but here's the principle, maybe the premise that practice makes perfect, but we do have to start from awareness. So these are a couple of things you could use this task or a similar task to and raise awareness to. So discourse markers, back channel devices like really referencing. So Helen becomes she, Peter and John becomes they, and appropriation, how to practice. So a written dialogue before they speak, maybe, or longer gaps between the cue questions, or then you go and shorten the gap. Then learners devise their own questions. You don't show them questions anymore. They come up with questions of their own, and then you see they're practicing again, and you're just disguising your practice, but you're offering more and more practice. Yeah. And appropriation or automaticity, you could just contextualize to make it a bit closer to real life. So small talk in different contexts, or gossip and say, have you seen what happened to this kind of thing that students might really be into, or catching up with a friend you haven't seen in a while. So it's been 1 year I haven't spoken to Lenora. Lenora, this kind of thing. So just contextualizing to give them another opportunity to repeat and practice. Yeah. So this is activity 1. This is just an example of how to bring the 3 A's of speaking to life and help students with one specific feature, raising their awareness, giving them practice, and then helping them become a bit more autonomous. Remember, it doesn't happen in one lesson only. It should happen over a number of lessons. Yeah. Beautiful. Le, any comments so far? Questions here that we could address? We can.
Yeah, Ricardo's just asking if we can share a source of activities like that. We're going to share at the end, Ricardo, reference books with some ideas. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, great. So shall we move on to the second activity? Activity. And then it goes like this. So I have this.
Sorry to interrupt you. Maria just made an interesting comment that the sound is too advanced for her groups. We're going to revisit that in a second, Maria, just to have this in mind. We're going to talk about the level thing, okay?
Yeah, in a minute, but very, very important comment here.
Yeah.
Good. So this second activity is about, I would tell, or maybe an anecdote like this. So guys, yesterday my friend was telling me what he did yesterday, but then he actually texted me, a WhatsApp and stuff. It was so strange. So let me show you here. This is what he wrote to me. Just have a read. Say what's strange about his language. Just have a look. Yeah, so anything that sounds weird here? And then every time we tried this, like students would say something like, maybe you guys can comment in the chat here too. But usually students would go, there are, I think he repeats a lot. Yeah, so there's this my air teacher. O que é esse air? So something like that. Yeah, it would sound, students would just, it sounds strange. Say it's not a natural. That is this natural? No. Yeah. So let's do this. He also sent me an audio. So say WhatsApp. So let's just listen, and then tell me, does this sound strange too, guys? Just let me know if you can hear this well.
Oh, okay. My day yesterday, right? I woke up at 7. I usually wake up a bit earlier, but yesterday I could um, have a lie-in, so I got up at 7, and then I had breakfast as I usually do. Oh yeah, and then I went straight to work because I usually drive to work, but yesterday I had a problem. Actually, my car broke in. Oh, okay. My day.
All right, so we're not gonna listen to the whole text here, but then if we ask them, so does the audio sound strange too? And usually students would say, no, it sounds fine. Yeah. So what's the difference between the written text and the audio? And then that's the whole point, guys. So we would like here to call students' attention or to raise their awareness to the fact that spoken language is a lot different from written language in what comes to the way you structure it. So in spoken language, there are lots and lots of gap fillers. So sometimes you're thinking and then you have to sort of disguise your pause. And we do that naturally in Portuguese, in our mother tongue, but we have to do the same in English. So for example, you can say, okay, okay, oh, okay, or right, well, so you're not saying anything. There's no meaning here. You just disguise instead of going silent. Yeah, you're just disguising. Right, or well, and this sounds natural because this is what people normally do when they're speaking. Because remember, it's a lot going on. So we're thinking, we're producing, conceptualizing, formulating, uttering, and then we have to disguise some pauses to giving ourselves a thinking time. Yeah. You could also call their attention to repetitions to say, yesterday I had a problem. Say, I sometimes have coffee. To say, we repeat two, three, four times the same word, and it's fine. No one will even notice we've done that. Yeah. And also here, the kind of linkers we use when they're teaching our students to write, you have to write something like furthermore or on the contrary, nevertheless. Yeah. But in speaking, we don't. We just use but and and, so, after that, and then after that. So there's repetition even in linking. Yeah. And this is great. And this is particularly helpful for basic learners because and, but, so are the kind of linkers that basic students are able to produce more easily. Yeah? And then you can just say, oh, see, these ones that these three linkers are all you need to speak and sound natural as you speak. So what are you doing here? Back to the 3 A's, you're just raising awareness to the fact that spoken language is a lot different in terms of linking and pauses, repetition, a lot different from written language. And then you can give little practice. You can have students like say a little something, and if there are no pauses or if they are not disguising their pauses, if they just go silent, you could design this task to help him filling the gap, the silence, with a couple of fillers, which is exactly what we're going to be doing now, right, Liz? So Lenora is here, my guinea pig now. So imagine I'm the teacher, Lenora is my student. We could well do this in pairs or even in breakout rooms. You just give cue cards and then you set up a task like this. So Lenora, you speak about what you did yesterday, right? I won't give you time to prepare. So I'm just gonna show you a cue card with an expression or a word. You have to use that in the past because it's your day yesterday, and you have to keep going. You have to make up a story. Are you ready, Lee? Here we
I
go.
hope so.
So
Okay,
yesterday.
Well, yesterday, Thursday, I woke up at about 9, and then I prepared my breakfast. I had my breakfast alone. I wanted to watch TV, but I didn't because I had to go to work. And going to work, I was still a little bit hungry because I didn't have a lot of breakfast in there. So I decided to post a picture of my lunch because it was delicious. Yeah. And my husband liked the picture a lot. He liked the picture because he was also hungry, and then he made a comment, a beautiful comment on my picture. And after that,
Time's up.
Yeah.
Great. So you can make it play, you can make like a sort of game-like activity and so on and so forth. But the point here, guys, is just like using these cues to have the student really just speak. It doesn't need to sound well connected or anything, particularly the first time you do that. Yeah? And then you will just Lenora is speaking, and then there's a peer with her in the breakout room or in the in-person lesson. Just say, pay attention to Lenora. Does she use gap fillers? Does she use does she repeat? Does she say I watched TV? I had a meeting? Does she use repetition? Does she use and, so, because, or but and or so and but? So just give a couple of pointers to the second student so that he or she has to pay attention as the first student speaks. And this is how you give practice. This is how you will help students understand and see for themselves that this is really what tends to happen in a natural, spontaneous chat. Yeah. And more than that, reproduce that in their own speech, incorporate this feature to their own speech. Of course, it won't happen overnight. It will take some time. And of course, back to, I think it was Maria Julia, yeah, who asked the question. With basic learners, here you just have, for all activities, guys, you just have to grade the level of challenge. So for example, this that Lenora did right now might suit best like an intermediate level or pre-intermediate. For basic students, instead of simple past, let's stick to simple present. So after they've been exposed to simple present and practice for say 3, 4, 5, 6 lessons, we just give this, and then they have to use the cue cards in the present. So your day, a typical day for you. Oh, I wake up at 7. I have breakfast. I have cereal for breakfast. You see, simple things that they are able to produce. And then the point again is not the grammar, it's not the vocabulary. Even if they get the grammar completely wrong, you will give feedback and correct, of course. But at this very moment, the point is speaking, not grammar. Yeah. So just see, oh, are you filling your gaps? Are you repeating? This kind of thing, to say A, raising awareness, then helping them appropriate of the feature and get it automatized with practice. Yeah. Does that make sense, guys?
There was an interesting question by Amanda Araújo. She asked if these exercises are meaningful for students who are training for CPE. This is an interesting question because, of course, we are addressing beginners, but CPE students or learners who are preparing for the proficiency exam, they also need to practice mainly sounding natural and appropriate, because sometimes they come to exams with those super fancy chunks, which are not appropriate for the context. They start saying furthermore and using expressions that do not sound natural in spoken language, even though it's an exam. So I think Felipe would agree that they could use the principles of the awareness, appropriation, automaticity, in the sense that preparing them to sound natural for the context they have to address in the exam. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the beauty of this, and particularly what Thornbury brings in terms of speaking and the AAA and so on and so forth, is that it is easily applicable to all levels. Again, guys, I think as Brazilians teaching English as a foreign language, we might not be used to challenging our basic students. So we might even be afraid, say, no, this is going to be too difficult to my students. It will frustrate them. Just give it a try. Say, remember, you have, of course, to grade the level of challenge accordingly, according to the language, to the grammar that they will already have seen and practiced. But remember that the point of these exercises is, again, not to practice grammar or vocabulary. It's to practice speaking, features of spoken language. So even if they get the grammar completely wrong, fine, provided they they fill the gaps, they repeat and stuff. And then what are you doing? You are teaching from the very beginning. You are teaching important features of spoken language. This is pretty much what happens, language acquisition, of course, to babies. Like babies, they learn to speak in their mother tongue, of course, because they are exposed to the language, and then they listen to people around them speaking the language, and then they listen to the pauses, they try and make sense and understand, and they try to reproduce what they're hearing, and then with time it becomes natural to them. So perhaps the provocation here, that Lenora and I would like to bring to you is, why not do this, or try as much as possible, of course, to make our classrooms this lab that will resemble this same process, and give students the chance to give it a try for themselves. Yeah. So just wrapping up the second task here, guys, again, back to the 3A's, we could raise awareness to a number of things, like pause fillers, repeats, linking devices. We could use cue cards with unrelated phrases or phrases within the same topic, which was the case here with Le. Shadow reading for pronunciation, show the script and have students read as they listen to the speakers. Personalization from a model, so give them a model and then you gap a couple of things and then you have them personalized but following the model. So again, as Lenora said, support scaffolding. Yeah. And then you could contextualize, like, okay, let's have a little presentation, or let's talk about, just tell me an anecdote or a little gossip thing, or talking about a weekend, a memorable moment. So just contextualize, give them a reason for doing that, and have them practice a second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th time for automaticity. Yeah. So again, it's not the task. You don't need to use this specific task. You can design your own task, but the principles, I think, would be the same. Yeah. And we have very little time, so I think we're gonna have to speed up a little here, right?
For the reminders,
activity. Yeah. But then, just for you to have a taste of it, guys, here it goes like this. Teacher shows a statement. Lenora has to agree. Felipe has to disagree. If it's like in-person lessons, so say, two lines, students standing in two lines right in front of you, the ones on your right agree, whatever it is, they have to agree. Students on the left disagree. It can be as simple as I agree, and then give me the reason. For more basic pre-intermediate students, if it's intermediate, upper intermediate, maybe they have, of course, to elaborate a bit more on the answer. So let's have a go here. You agree, I disagree. Okay, but when I go, we have to change opinions. So then Lenora disagrees and I agree. Let's try. So Le, you agree, I disagree.
Okay, São Paulo is bigger. It's more beautiful. There are more things to do than Rio.
What? Are you crazy? I don't agree. Rio is so beautiful. Lots of beaches, places to go. Rio is terrible. Rio is so polluted. People in Rio are so bad. I have friends from
Absolutely
Rio.
not. Rio is the most beautiful city you will
What?
ever see in your life, and people are
No.
friendly and welcoming.
Paulista Avenue is more beautiful than any
Dirty and
beaches in
noisy.
Rio.
No
No,
way.
of course not. So you see the point,
Okay.
guys. We're not gonna do the others, but we could bring a couple of statements here, yeah. And the point is, students have to agree and disagree. So it sounds a little, crazy, really kind of bipolar. What's that? But the point is, okay, how can I use language to agree, to disagree? How can I put an argument forward? Remember, if it's a basic group, something very simple. Teach them I agree. I don't agree because I agree because Rio is very beautiful. Because there are beautiful beaches in Rio. Oh no, there are shopping centers on Paulista Avenue. Whatever. It could be very basic language, but the point would be, how do I go from agreeing to disagreeing? And of course it will sound natural because it's the same conversation, but that's the element of fun here. That's the little game or gamified thing here, to make it
Mhm.
sound fine, even being a little crazy like this. What am I practicing here, guys? I can call students awareness to chunks to give opinion, summarizing and rephrasing. Say, no, what I mean is this thing of what I mean. How can I summarize? How can I rephrase? Again, even if I'm a basic learner, because if I don't understand, I'll ask for clarification. How do I ask for clarification? How do I clarify? Even at a beginner level, you see. So this is interesting thing that arguably students would be using quite a lot in real life. Yeah. Also, when it comes to appropriation, learners come up with statements on the spot, or the gap between, in between sentences is longer, or you repeat, like, now you have 40 seconds to give your opinion. Now the same thing, but in 30 seconds. You have to say the same in 10 seconds less. So it becomes with fluency. Now the same in 20 seconds. So more fluent. Not that you're going to speed up, but because they've practiced, they've rehearsed, it becomes
They'll
more
be
fluent.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the very last thing, automaticity. So it's very useful for discussions and debates, again, from the very beginning, from the beginner level. Online forums, having an argument. So let's discuss you and your boyfriend. You're having an argument to say, what would you say? How would you have a argument in English? This kind of thing that might sound very interesting for students as well. Yeah. So again, guys, you can change the task. And here we bring a few reminders. But what's really important is the premise. Yeah. So you can use learner generated talk or language. Use things that students are learning in terms of grammar, vocabulary. Focus on their needs. If they say they like talking about blah, so bring blah as the topic of the lesson. Using speaking tasks as warmers and fillers. When you have 5 minutes to the end of the lesson, you don't know what to do. Why not a little speaking activity like one of these, just to give them further practice? So just a couple of reminders. Maybe you can have a screenshot here. But as Lenora said, we're gonna be glad to share the material with you if you
And
like. Yeah.
there is one something that's really interesting is to look at speaking lessons as speaking lessons, not grammar vocabulary practice. And it changes our mindset completely as teachers. So, and give learners that opportunity to practice speaking, not to practice grammar or to practice vocabulary. They're just tools, but focus on the speaking skills. Yeah.
Absolutely. So hopefully, and here's a little, kind of summary of the three activities that, again, just as reference for you guys. But hopefully in this 1 hour or so, Lenora and I have been able to share with you a little bit of, the features of spoken language and why it might be really, really, really difficult for students, regardless of the level, but again, particularly a lower level students, why it might be so difficult for them to actually speak, to actually talk during the lessons. And then being aware of that as a teacher, how can we try and give them a couple of more opportunities or some more room in our classes so that they can practice? But remember, one feature at a time, gradually, and practice makes perfect, as they say. Yeah. So here's
and the
our
reference material.
references.
Yes.
Yeah. There's this lovely book here, Speaking by Bygate,
Martin
and
Bygate.
How to Teach Speaking by Thornbury, and the lovely 6 episode from Blossom here. Yeah. All right, guys, I think that's all for today. So here you have our contact. Feel free to email us if you have questions, comments, or if you would like to get a copy of the materials here. Yeah. Thank you so very much, Le.
Just addressing Samira's question, if it's possible to apply the AAA in private online lessons, absolutely.
Sure.
What
Yeah.
changes is the dynamic, because especially if it's one-to-one lesson, it's going to be you and the learner. But absolutely, you just have to adapt to your situation. But I would for sure use even with private learners, and super basic learners.
I second that. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. And give it a try,
Thank
guys.
you.
Remember,
Yeah.
no matter the level, just try and then see if it works for you and adapt as needed. Yeah. Le, thanks so very much.
And thank you,
all
Disal, for having
being
us.
here.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, guys. Hope to see you around.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.